Welcome to the Masters of Resilience podcast. This show is an exploration of the unseen and unheard stories of adversity that shape the journeys of high performers. These conversations will help you better understand the mindset, habits, and behaviors that empower these exceptional leaders to endure the most challenging moments of their careers and emerge stronger than ever. Your hosts are Ryan Seeger and Mark Phillips. Let's dive in to more.
Welcome back to the Masters of Resilience podcast. Today's guest is Brad Lomenick. Brad is an author, speaker, and the longtime president of Catalyst, one of the most influential leadership movements of the last 2 decades. Brad has spent his career gathering leaders, creating intentional spaces, and shaping the conversation around what healthy, effective leadership really looks like. In our conversation, Brad opens up about the weight of leading Catalyst, the sting of transactional relationships, and the painful wake-up call when his own team confronted the darker side of his leadership. We also dive into how he's learned to discern calling, why clarity matters more than passion, and how to ensure that the people closest to us don't get what's left over. This is a raw, practical, and deeply human look at leadership. I know you're going to enjoy it, so let's dig into more. All right, Brad, great to have you on the Masters of Resilience podcast. I want to open by asking a very direct question and diving right in. What was the hardest part about building the organization Catalyst for you?
Yeah, we're not wasting any time. Let's get there. Let's get to the good stuff.
Let's go to it.
Multiple things come to mind. I'll start with that I didn't really know what I was doing. And I don't say that with a shucks, we were trying our best. I felt like I was in many ways I wasn't being an imposter, but from the event space, I didn't feel like I had enough seasons or years of experience to be in the seat I was in. Now, I like that challenge. Most of us who are high capacity type A's that like to build things, we don't mind that tension. But it was daunting when I'm looking around going, wait, should I know the answer to that? Because I don't think I do. The other thing was that I had a real hard time. I'm a natural convener, gatherer, connector at my core. I mean, I love doing that. And once Catalyst started to have a lot of influence, it was great for me to get to bring in my friends. But it was not necessarily great when I had to tell my friends that it wasn't going to work. So I was challenged, especially later in the season of leading Catalyst, that being able to really discern and decipher between, well, what is going to be best. And I just wanted to tell everybody yes. From a speaking perspective, especially. Now, this is not to your question, Mark, but I think that the one of the things that I was most scared of when transitioning out of the seat I was in was, well, are all these people who I'm friends with now, are they going to want to still be friends with me once I'm not in charge? And to be honest, there were some people that weren't friends with me anymore. They were transactionally just interested in, hey, buddy, I got a new book coming out. Love to be on the stage this year, so.
Gosh, yeah. That relationship of growing in your own leadership and understanding which relationships are actually accretive and helping you grow and which are transactions. And that's a really, really hard pill to swallow.
And it's okay if they are transactional. Let's just call it that.
Right.
But when you think that everybody's in it for the relational equity and you're posing like that, then it's a challenge when and that's true for any of us who step out of something. It's true when you were the high school football team captain, and now you transition to a new season and nobody cares anymore. It's true in every season of transition for any of us. But that was a big part of a concern for me.
Do you abide by this idea that you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And so how do you I've always struggled with it because I think if we look at Jesus's ministry, he had his 12 disciples, but that can be hard in certain seasons, especially when you talk about leadership transitions, because there's going to be seasons where you have to look back at people from prior relationships and say, like, this isn't a relationship I can sustain anymore.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of the people that I'm speaking of or thinking of, they weren't really in my circle.
Mm.
They were if you think about your relationships in concentric circles, they were important, but they weren't necessarily like the core. They weren't within the first 3 rings, of the cores of what I would call like friendships or acquaintances or just people that you're interacting with. And so, from that's an interesting thing to think about for all of us is there are certain people we want to be in our core because it seems cool.
Mm.
Oh, so-and-so who everybody knows, all of a sudden they're in your core. Well, are they really? Or are they just somebody that, again, you're interacting with, you're engaging with, but you're not necessarily like doing life with. And I think that's another part of this when you have, for me anyway, again, going back to the question of what was hard is I was very comfortable around people of influence. The challenge is, again, like once you start to have a lot of friends who people know, well, then who are your real friends? And, Arthur, uh, who wrote the Strength to Strength, Arthur Brooks. Talks about the deal friends and real friends. And that's okay. Again, there's nothing wrong with being a deal friend. I just don't want to I don't want to be incorrect in where I'm putting people. And then all of a sudden those people let you down or they go away because they were really never in your true circle.
Yeah. Brad, Mark and I were talking about this a little bit before we jumped on, and like just our level of busyness and like there's different perceptions of that and everyone's got different levels depending on their roles. But like, and I'm a deep believer in like, I think deep community and connection is super important for leaders and for entrepreneurs and people that are running a fast paced life and high performing. Like, how do you structure that? Like, how have you found like the intentionality of that work in your life? Cause I know I've personally kind of struggled with that. Like, Mark and I are close and there's others, but you got to be very intentional about that and those relationships. But I do think those relationships, when you take time to invest in, can really help you push you in a direction that I probably would not have gone otherwise.
Yes. Well, I mean, I would love to hear from the relationship you guys have. I mean, I know you talk about that on the podcast, but the ability for us to have the people that are going to go the distance, but also believe the best for us. And now you're equally investing in each other. I think that's the truest form of, let's call it friendship, or at least, again, going back to, well, who's in my circle? And, I think there's a lot of weight that we should put on people who are equally investing as well as receiving. And, it's the credit withdrawal thing. We all talk about that's the kind of people you want in your life, is people who make more credits or they make more deposits than they take withdrawals.
Yeah.
But I would say when you get to the level of a good business partner or a great friendship or somebody who you want to do life with, there is an equal sense of give and take. And depending on the season. So I'm, the challenge again for those of us who are, any of us who end up, we are drawn towards places of leadership or being in charge or taking charge, is that we end up over indexing on that we're the only one investing in other people. And a lot of times it's because we're faster, smarter, I don't know, more resourceful. We have more resources available. But we all have to be really careful of that. Because if my whole world is now just that I'm transacting, and it's here's a good example. Are you the one that always pays when you go anywhere? And that's okay. But again, like, we got to have some give and take, we got to have like equal amounts of, hey, are you paying this time or am I paying this time? And it's not about keeping score either. But I think a lot of us end up just in the place where we look around and go, I'm giving a lot, but I'm not receiving a lot in this relationship.
I feel that. Ryan, do you feel that in your life, Ryan? Man,
Oh man. Yes, I mean,
really insightful, Brad.
this topic I resonates deeply, and I think Mark and I've talked about it, but I guess the best way I can sum it up, the people that I gravitate towards are, and Mark will chuckle, I know we've talked on here before, like the high agency type people, which
Yes.
George Mack put out a nice piece on that, but it's like the people, like, who would be your first call if you're in like the dire of dire and that anybody would do anything to support you. Like, the people that make that list are the people that I want to spend a heck of a lot of time with. Mark's one of those people. I can think of a few others that, like, like, again, you're going to go seasons of just craziness, and, maybe you're not talking as regularly as you'd want to. But like, again, there's deep deposits made in those relationships that I think are like, those are massively influential people in your life.
No question. And you always have to be leveling up, I think, in life, both in terms of relational capacity, your friendships, people you're learning from. Obviously, if you're moving into new seasons of influence or positional power or authority, you want to you don't keep learning from the same people, because you've now got a new skill set that you need to master in different seasons. So it's balancing those. It's like, well, do I want the college friend who I'm going to do 60 years of life with? Of course. But I can't stay there. And the gravitational pull is, for all of us, is always to lower. We end up going lower in all of life. We just default to boredom or just neutrality. We default to the lower level of people. They pull us down. The gravitational pull is always there. And so we have to fight. We have to fight against that. And that's also hard with your team when you're leading a team and all of a sudden you look around and go, well, Mark, well, Ryan, I guess I don't want to be the one to say it, but this current organization is now outgrown Jim, who's been here since the beginning. That is not a fun conversation.
So tough.
Yeah.
Gosh.
But for Jim's sake and for my sake, we've got to be the person who says, well, we got to deal with it. Because there's a lot of Jims that are stuck in a bunch of organizations all over the world. And they're looking around going, well, I guess I'll just sort of coast it out the next 7 years until I get to retirement.
It's brutal on everyone.
It's brutal on everybody.
No doubt. No doubt. On Jim especially, too. That's the truth.
Jim especially, yes.
Yeah.
Even if he's not willing to admit it.
Right. Or doesn't see it. Your story is such an interesting one as well. And some of those experiences relationally and with Catalyst, you started on a dude ranch, which I've been to, and it's a beautiful place.
Yes.
And then moved into leadership and got to work with some amazing leaders. Just talk a little bit about that journey, because I think you touch on this, like leveling up and having to understand which are relationships and which are transactions. And it seems like there's been a lot of moments in your life where you've had to redefine who Brad Lomenick is. So can you touch a little bit on that journey, and like, what are some of the real inflection points when you look back on the path that you've come down?
Well, there's a couple of things that I think are helpful for people to think about in their own journey that are lessons from mine. One is my major, which was history.
Nice.
First of all, is, worthless now. It did help me understand how to see patterns, how to write. But this is true for many of us, is that we end up putting so much of an inflection point on that little window of time in our journeys when it shouldn't have that kind of power over us. And this is the new reality for the 18 to 25-year-old, which is college may be good for you. It might be the next step, but it doesn't have to be the only next step. And part of what I've learned is that the more opportunities, the more seasons that I had in my 20s to then reverse engineer and start to then discover what is really true about me. What are the things I gravitate towards? What am I really good at? What do I love doing? All those pieces, when you have more data to put into the system, you actually can make a better, you can be more discerning on what direction you should be headed in. So, to my story, I was a history major, wanted to go into politics maybe, thought I might go to law school, ended up on a guest ranch in Colorado for a summer job, ended up staying for almost 4 years as the head wrangler. Had no idea what I was doing. That's another lesson from most of my different seasons vocationally is I was never really like prepared nor the expert before I started running something. And I think that is a entrepreneurial, call it high capacity motivation, which is we will just look around and go, I'm going to do this and I'll figure it out and I'll get the, Head Wrangler for Dummies book and I'll make sure that I'm just, again, one chapter ahead of the students as a substitute teacher. Right. So but the head wrangler job ended up putting me into places where I was connecting with people who had a lot of influence, which then got me connected to John Maxwell, which then, I showed up to work with John and had no idea how to do events. And then all of a sudden I'm, sort of the guy running Catalyst now. And I just think that's more and more we have to give, especially 20 somethings, you have to give them permission to try a lot of stuff. And this old idea of, well, you got to find the one thing.
Right.
That's more and more just unrealistic. And it's also creating so much anxiety for, it's actually called purpose anxiety. Like that's a whole new reality in our world of 20 somethings who they're so overwhelmed with choice that now they can't make any decision because we're telling people, do whatever you want. Never before have we had more opportunities to, start your own thing or to be whatever you want to be. And that's actually bad advice. Be whatever you want to be is not good advice. Be whatever you want to be based on data is good advice.
Yeah.
Based on seasons that you've now like uncovered some of that stuff.
Right.
And then let me just say one more thing about my journey, because I think this will be helpful for people. I would say, if you think about the who, what, where, and why in your 20s, especially, or even your late teens, I would argue that the who factor might be the most important, meaning who you're becoming, but also who you're around. And if we get around the right who's early in our career, I think the what, where, and why will actually start to take care of itself. It'll start to play out. But man, I'm encouraging every young leader I know to get around the right people. Even if you're just carrying bags or you're an intern to the intern, you're the assistant regional manager or the assistant to the regional manager. So that's the kind of thing that I think for me, when I look back on my seasons, I had some who's in my life that actually gave me opportunities to try stuff and to figure out the what.
We had a sales meeting this week and we were talking about like this theme of inspired action came up, and I think you just hit that head on. And I think it's like we always wait, like we're always waiting, right, for the opportune time. Like I know for me, it's like, oh, should we have kids? Well, I don't know if I'm ready yet. And it's like no one's ever ready for anything. But it's like, if I look back, I'm like, okay, you jump in and it's like, I don't know, I see some things in a 7-year-old now that I'm like, I don't know, maybe we didn't totally screw this up, and I think that can be aligned with a lot of other things too. Like, I think, if you wait for the opportune time, you're missing windows of opportunity to number one, maybe fail. Number two, there's just so many lessons to be gleaned from that, whether you succeed or you don't. So I just think that's so well said.
And courage. This is in many ways, the definition of courage is the ability to have enough risk factor in your life, but also to balance that with some sense of due diligence, But at some point you have to act. You have to take a step. And, think of people when they get older in life. Are they regretting the opportunities they missed, or are they regretting the things they said yes to?
Mm.
Most of the time they're regretting the opportunities they missed. They're wishing they would have done something, or they would have tried something, they would have stepped out. And so I just think that it's a courage thing too, to, like you said, Ryan, to have inspired action and to live a life that says, I'm going to default to do stuff, compared to I'm going to default to figure out stuff, or to wait, or to discern. And that you can't steer a parked car. And with calling and purpose and vocational direction, so many people are paralyzed. Again, they're frozen because there's so many different things. My advice many times is just try something.
Right.
Yeah.
Just move.
You're not going to know.
Yeah. No,
Yes, you're not going to know until you try it.
That's why I think like the inspired part of that phrase is important, because it's like, action is,
Yes.
I'm a big action guy, but like acting with no like level of direction, or you're not inspired by something, like that's going to lead to somewhere where you may not want to go. But I think it's making sure that you have a deeper conviction about whatever the action is that you're making.
I don't know, Ryan. I think I hear that, but I also think there's risk, because I think there's going to be seasons where you aren't sure where you should go. And I think Brad's point, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, Brad, but at some point there are going to be moments in your life where movement is all you can do, even if it doesn't feel inspired in the moment. Do you know what I mean?
And it is both. I mean, I would say this: the bad advice that I hear so often, and both of you are hearing this too from people, and hopefully people who are listening or watching aren't telling their kids this, is just pursue your passion. It has to be passion combined with intrinsic wiring that is connected to the story that you find yourself in. Also, let's call it with a dash of sustainability, meaning you can't just say to somebody, just pursue whatever you're passionate about. I mean, use music as a good example. All these people who think they're vocalists and they're going on reality shows and they're passionate. Man, I'm so passionate about song. Okay, great, but you can't sing and you have no musical ability.
Right.
So how far is that going to get you? It's the same for, all of us who said we're going to be a professional athlete when we were kids. That's a lot of passion, but at least the system told us we can't, right? The system put a barrier in place. But think of all of our friends who they're passionate about being an entrepreneur. Okay, well, are you good at it? Are you actually wired to have entrepreneurial, tendencies, and to like stick it out and be willing to do the hard stuff? And so I just think that's really important for those of us who are giving advice and trying to help people navigate their seasons of life. So it's got to be both, though. It's got to be a combination of all those things that now become an equation for people to figure out what they're supposed to do.
The comment you just made.
Sorry, I got off.
No, I
got off.
I think we're still
the story.
We're still in the same. We're in the strike zone. Something you just said back to the storyline, though. I will take us back there. You're kind of jumping over, and you're glossing over a little bit, Brad. Stepping into being the head wrangler at a guest ranch with zero experience. Stepping in to be the event director for John Maxwell with zero experience. And so what is it, I want to dig into you for a moment here, Brad, of like, what is it that's allowing you to step into those spaces? I don't think it's realistic to say fear was not present. I think fear is always there. It's knocking at the door. But there's something about you, or there's something within your intrinsic habits or motivations that is allowing you to acknowledge that fear, but continue to move forward. What is that?
Well, I will try to be helpful and practical in the way that I'm self-analyzing.
I would love that.
I think that the key is that I have an incredible drive to figure stuff out. And I'm also very loyal and responsible and people look at me and they would say, well, you're showing the right kind of qualities that we want in a team member. So therefore, we're going to give you more responsibility and more opportunity way earlier than you deserve. Now, I can break down all the things that looks like, but it's hard work. It's my curiosity level. It's my ability to read the room and see patterns, and I would say having a lot of emotional intelligence. It's also valuing what my leaders valued and being the best expression of the vision of the house. And meaning this, that whatever team I've ever been on, I was the one that primarily, at least at the top, or close to the top of the team members, who people would say, if we have core values here, he's living them out the most. Now, that's also just me being smart and saying, I'm going to pay attention to the things that matter here in this organization. So, I'm paying attention to what the leader values. And when I say leader, I mean like the person in charge. And that sometimes is, people forget about that. They come in and they go, well, I'm an expert, so I'm going to be the rebel, and I'm going to go sort of against everything that the leader values. Well, that's not going to get you very far, right? So my ability to pay attention and quickly discern what was needed in the moment, and even as a head wrangler, like head wranglering, Mark, you've been to Lost Valley, this place where and it really was for me the first real job I ever had in terms of post college. Like I'm actually like an employee. The horse skills, those were important, but they weren't the most important. The most important skill as a head wrangler at Lost Valley Ranch is people skills. It's the ability to like have a hospitality heart, but also be so willing to do the homework and the hard work of just meeting the needs of guests, right? And that looks like a lot of things. So I figured out that I can do that. Now, I wasn't the best rider, I wasn't the best horseman, I wasn't like an expert at horseology, but I was really good with people. And for me, that was a skill that I knew was intrinsic in me, and I'd been developing it. And now that I've had 5 or 6 different seasons of assignment, they all reflect my calling, which my calling statement is connect, gather, and influence influencers. So it's 3 verbs and 1 noun: connect, gather, influence influencers, or whatever influencers is, a community. That's clear for me. And every season I've been doing that, whether it's putting on conferences, whether it's writing books, whether it's speaking, whether it's putting on gatherings, whether it's being a connector, whether it's a head wrangler. All the seasons for me, they connect back to that statement. That's clarity. That's the thing that I think is so important for all of us, is making sure that you have clarity around, well, does this season of assignment actually line up and reflect, give evidence to this bigger purpose statement on my life? And it's okay if it doesn't, because every 20-something, again, who's 25 and they're looking at their current job and going, this should line up. Like, no, it shouldn't. No, you need to be faithful to being in that role that is probably not the best expression. Now, when do you jump? When do you go to the next thing? I don't know. But you're going to have seasons where they don't line up. But man, if I can get to the place now where the season of assignment is, the Venn diagram is overlapping with my calling, then I've got something really special.
What should be people, because the question people are going to beg is, you answered it. You said, I don't know, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Like, how do people know when they've earned the right for those 2 things to line up? No idea.
Well, I mean, I have inklings.
I'm curious.
But everything's contextual. I think so much of it is, well, what season are you in? How much experience have you had there? What are the people you work for saying? What are the people that work for you or with you saying? What is your spouse saying, or family? What are your friends telling you? There's a lot of inputs when it comes to those kind of decisions. But I would say this in general, and a lot of people probably disagree with me. Which one should I do more? Should I stay longer or should I jump sooner? And I would say in general, based on where we are in culture, stay longer. Because the tendency right now is to jump sooner.
Yeah.
Especially if you're younger. The thing all of us old geezers, we're all sitting around saying is all these young 20-somethings. They're not willing to stay. They're going to jump. As soon as it gets hard, they're going to quit.
Right.
Well, prove them wrong. Right?
Yeah.
That's good.
I don't know. I would deeply resonate with that. I think like the long game has been a theme here for since the beginning. And I just feel like if you can focus on, everyone gets so distracted by the failures and like, well, what if I don't accomplish this? But I honestly think like when you see something through for a long enough time, like the lessons that are gleaned from it. And again, this is coming from a guy who's been in the same job my whole career. And not that I'm saying I'm exemplary at all, but like,
well, I was going to say, right.
Same job,
yes,
same
job, same
he's
firm,
doing
same
the same thing since like internships in college.
Well, but you've risen.
Correct. Yes. There's different roles, like
same role.
correct. But I think like I look back, I'm like, okay, there's plenty of times 3 to 4 years in where you're like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go do something else.
I remember those
more
conversations.
How many years, Ryan?
How many years? What?
How many years in the same company?
I mean, if I include an internship, probably a decade and a half, just about. But I look back, and I'm talking to
you're the exception to the rule.
He is the exception.
But I'm talking, you talk to some of the younger folks too, and it's the same thing. It's when your back's up against the wall and it really starts to get hard and it gets lonely and there's rejection and failure. Like people hate the appearance of that. It's like they want to get out of that, so they're squirming in their seat because it's like so they can't handle it. But what you realize is like the only way to gain significant experiences is go through that. Like it's the only way.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yeah. And this is why we have to be really diligent about clarity.
Right.
Because if we're clear, and if you're unclear, if you're not sure, stay. But if there's clarity on whether it's not about staying or going, it's about, are you lined up? And especially as a person of faith, are you lined up with the way God's wired you, the passions you have in life that wake you up and motivate you, the story, the season you're in, and then again, a level of sustainability. Those 4 quadrants for me are really important. And they all kind of connect to Jim Collins, the hedgehog principle and the life, the Patterson life plan. And I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to sort of discern what I'm supposed to do in life. But I think so many of us were making decisions without clarity. And so now we're putting ourselves in an even more incorrect situation because we're not even clear. But then we're trying to figure out, well, should I take that job because it's going to pay me $2,500 more? Without being clear. Yeah. So we're letting the small things end up actually drive the big decisions in life. Or, hey, they got ping pong over there, or I'm going to get an extra week of vacation. And so I agree, Ryan, like when in doubt, be faithful, be a good steward, stick with it, crush your current assignment. So the challenge though is for so many people, they don't have that clarity. And that's the backup. That's like 6 stages before, ultimately you're what so many people are trying to navigate, and they've never just done the hard work and the homework of getting that clarity.
So in your experience, Brad, like what's the best way to obtain that clarity?
Yeah, great question. It's going back to that, for me, the calling and assignment piece is really important. And when it comes to calling, it has to be the way I describe it is riverbanks on your life. So if you think about riverbanks, riverbanks give you direction, but they're not specific. So you can go down a river on multiple different crafts, an aircraft carrier, a tugboat, a speedboat, an inner tube. But riverbanks are a sense of direction on your life. And that then should give evidence to the different seasons you're in. And how do you figure it out? Well, you look back at your childhood. And I'm specifically talking about vocational expressions. If you look at your childhood, many times you'll see breadcrumbs that you never realized were there. And the easy one is to say, oh, when you're an entrepreneur, you have entrepreneurial tendencies because you were selling lemonade in your neighborhood without anybody ever telling you you had to do it, right? Or you were the person at recess at school that was the one getting the kickball game together.
Yeah.
Or you were the kid that was breaking up the fights on the playground. All those are breadcrumbs because nobody told you should. I mean, when I was in first grade, the first day of class in first grade, I learned everybody's name. By day 2, I'm noticing patterns among my classmates. I think by the end of the week, I was doing trade deals in the cafeteria. That is natural intrinsic wiring. Nobody told me, hey, the way you get ahead in first grade is this is the plan. So those are things that are just true about me. And I think so many of us, we don't see those breadcrumbs, or we don't give ourselves permission to look back and find them. The other thing is you got to ask the people around you what is true about you. And the things that they will say about you, that they'll say, well, Ryan, man, every time I'm around Ryan, this happens, or he does this, or he's the one that always, and you go, wait, really? So a lot of times the things that we're wired with, we don't even realize are superpowers for that matter.
What goes back, Brad, to something you said of, as leaders, we need to do a better job of taking and giving. I know personally, like I'm pretty bad at receiving compliments. Like I dismiss them, or someone says, hey, this is unique about you. I'm like, well, no, everybody's like that. Right. And I don't know what it is about. That's like a false humility. That's not kindness to not receive that well. Or even looking back on childhood and being like, well, no, those things that I did, like learning everybody's name in first grade, everybody was doing that. No, everybody wasn't doing that. That was just Brad.
And think about hobbies too. Like the things that we love, many times they end up in the hobby category, which is fine. That's still clarity. Now, if you can find something that is the ultimate expression of all these things vocationally that you can make money at, or you can create sustainability around, that's the ultimate win. But even your story, Ryan, like you being in the same company for 15 years, it sounds like you have enough room within that company to pursue a lot of different roles, have different seasons where you're being challenged, or you're going to a different level of leadership. And that is actually still, to me, a great expression of, well, if you find enough freedom within one organization to be able to do those things, and it still is going to line up with the sense of direction in your life, home run.
Yeah.
Home run all day long. But most people, I mean, I'm just going off the stats, guys, and this is true. Like 80% of the American workforce is looking around and saying to the people who do research, if I could do anything else, if I could change jobs tomorrow, I would. That is a massive chasm of purpose anxiety, of wrong fit, of a lot of different things that are going on. And so I don't think the three of us are the norm. There's a lot of people out there that would look at us and go, if I could do anything else, I would. If I could work with anybody else, I would. If I could be part of any other organization, I would. I don't even like my boss. I don't like the people I work with. I don't like the work I'm doing. I'm just getting a paycheck.
Right.
And that's not what we were designed for.
Yeah. It's like this, I don't know, it seems like a societal disease at this point, of like just this emotional reaction to like, okay, well, as soon as there's discomfort, I'm just going to bail. And it's like,
and that's different. I think that's different, because that to me is, well, is it a question of purpose and direction and being in the right seat on the bus, that you're going to be able to use your gifts and show up most days and feel like you're on point. That's one thing. The other thing is now, I'm not even sure I should be part of this organization. I don't really get along with the people I work with. I'm dealing with drama all the time. I mean, those are two different things. And then when you combine the whole sense of, well, is this just a job? Is this just a means to an end? And I know this is the number one of the top issues when you think about engagement and you think about retention for companies. And we all know it's so expensive to replace people. So again, part of my job as a boss or a leader, and this is hopefully practical for everybody, part of my job is to help people discover and find clarity in their calling, even if it means they go somewhere else. That is my job as a leader, period. And this is true whether they're 22 or 42 or 62 for that matter. And I want to be much more of a coach and a mentor to people than I am their manager. A manager says, just do the job. And we don't have time to talk about purpose. A coach or a mentor says, let me put my arm around you. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what's best for you. And, that's a different kind of leader than many of us have had in our past.
Brad, as we're rounding the bend towards the end of the conversation here, I want to make it a little bit more personal. You've got a lot of content out there. One of the things that I was listening to, you said something to the effect of during kind of your maybe the most intense season of leadership for you, you said the people closest to me were getting the worst of me or none of me at all. Obviously a painful realization or wake-up call. And so we're talking about all these things, and there's obviously such vocational intentionality in this conversation. In your experience, how as leaders can we be intentional about obviously pursuing that vocational intentionality, but making sure that the people we care about the most are being brought along with us?
Yeah, I became a pretty dysfunctional leader. I was leading the organization that was supposed to be gathering leaders and, best in class in leadership. And here I am dysfunctional. We went to Dave & Buster's for a celebration day. And, we were very competitive as a team. It's like 30 of us. And we got a bunch of tickets, from skee ball and hoop shoot. And the team goes and buys me a gift at the gift store. And it's 2 dolls. One is an angel doll. One's a devil doll. And I was like, what is this? What? Thank you. But what does this have to do with anything? And they were like, well, that's basically kind of like who we've been dealing with for a while. And it was a wake up call for me, and they had come up with a nickname, which was my name backwards, Darb, DARB. And that was the devil. When Darb was in the office, people were like, don't come in today, stay away from him. And it was, again, like funny, but also a very clear sense for me of, okay, that's not good enough. Because what I cannot do as a leader is say, well, it's just the way I'm wired, guys. So deal with it. I'm just, I'm a heart charger and I'm going to tell you like it is. So it's just my way or the highway. I have to get better as a leader. And I wasn't. And I'd stagnated. A lot of that was because of pressure. It was weight, responsibility. Every one of us go through seasons where the weight we're carrying is so heavy that it now it oozes out all the bad stuff. And when we're under pressure and under weight, we tend to not be healthy. And so all of that was reason for me to recalibrate. Now, again, to your question, Mark, navigating that, most leaders don't know when they're being Darb. Like they don't know when they're toxic, when they're dysfunctional. And a lot of it is because nobody tells them. So I was actually very thankful for a team that was willing to say, hey, we love you. We're going to follow you. Like you get stuff done and you're in charge and we're not dishonoring you. But what we're not going to let you do is stay where you are as a dysfunctional leader. And that has to that's a permission-based environment of self-awareness that says none of us are willing to let the other person become toxic or dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I was so thankful for that, because it would have been really easy for me to be in charge and to just like limp along, and all of a sudden people start like peeling off and leaving, and I'm looking around going, "Oh, why are, man, we're crushing it." And they're looking at me going, "Yeah, but we don't want to be around you anymore." So for all of us who are, again, naturally wired, which is most people listen to this podcast, I can guarantee you, we have to be 10x, 20x, 100x on the intensity of our ability to be self-aware, and also create an environment of feedback that says, please tell me, please tell me, please tell me, please tell me. Everybody, please tell me when I'm being a jerk, when I'm the kind of leader that you're willing to follow, but you're just like annoyed with. And that takes another level of intensity on being the person who says, I'm going to do the hard work of giving people permission. And when you're in charge, you don't naturally think that way.
So how did you create that, Brad? It's like maybe you just said it, but how did you? Because again, I've felt some of that, hesitancy sometimes with people when people are afraid to open up like that.
Yeah. Well, you have to. I think you have to articulate it over and over, especially for the people who on your team are not going to be naturally the ones that will confront. There are people on the team that they'll tell you when you're not leading well. And sometimes you have to cool their jets a little bit, right? It's like, you're giving me too much feedback right now. But I think you have to customize your intensity of feedback loops with each person on the team as much as you can. So you're scaling it, you're creating a feedback culture, you're creating a self-awareness culture, a team awareness culture, but you're also customizing it a bit more for people who probably you want the most feedback from, but they're a little bit hesitant to give it to you. The other thing is, again, us as leaders, we have to model this. And that means that every time you're in a staff meeting, or you're together with somebody, or you're in a one-on-one, or anytime in the culture, you have to give people permission to do it. And when you see it, you honor it and you celebrate it and you reward it, for that matter. And that's literally like, hey guys, we want to be a feedback culture here. We want to have the ability to coach each other up, down, and across the organization. Let's practice it. And then everybody hesitates, and then the guy or the girl who always talks is the one who first talks, right? You're like, okay, great. But then as soon as that person who you want to jump in actually says something, then you stop and you're like, oh, Susie, thank you. Finally, that was so good. Like, more of that, please. So I think you have to just be overemphasizing on honoring and celebrating it, and stopping in the moment and saying, that's what we want here.
Right.
That's the kind of behavior we want to celebrate. And it takes time. Like even the premise of this, we hear this all the time. Well, here at, Acme Holdings, we have an open door policy. No, you don't. Because last time somebody walked in there, they came out with scars.
Right. Right.
So just because you say it's true, you have to model this consistently and constantly.
Yeah. That's well said. Brad,
and most of us are not comfortable with
Right.
it. We don't like it. But this is the kind of stuff that has to be modeled from the
no
top.
doubt. 2 final questions. Number 1, best leadership book that you've ever read. Got to pick one.
Oh gosh.
You can say 2.
In one
Pick
category?
Okay, Ryan's giving you 2 now. I know. I don't know. You just 2 best. What's at the top of the list? What do we got to be reading?
Well, I would have to say something from John Maxwell. I would be remiss if I didn't give a John Maxwell book.
No doubt.
I mean, everybody says 21 Laws.
Okay.
I actually love his book called Winning with People. Just because I like giving a different answer than 21 Laws, because that's the book he's most known for. But Winning with People is an instant classic. And also Failing Forward. That's another great one from Maxwell. There's a book called Spiritual Leadership. Oswald Sanders, I think, is the author. That's another one that rises to the top for me.
Those are good. And somehow you managed to give me 4 books when we asked for one. That was impressive. That was like ninja stuff right there. That was really good.
It's hard for me to get one.
No, it's a tough question.
As a leadership junkie, I've got a
my last question for you is this: take yourself back to Lost Valley, and I want to take you to year 4 there. You're thinking about what's next. I don't know if the stuff with Catalyst and John Maxwell's come together, but if you could go back to that version of Brad and give him one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, well, that's a tough one. I would say the Catalyst stuff had not taken root.
Okay.
I would say this. Start investing.
Okay. I love that.
At 22 or 23, whatever I was at that point. That would have been one thing of advice. Buy Apple stock at that point.
Right. Let the eighth wonder of the world start to kick in. I get that. That's good. That's really good.
Now, I mean, what to the question you're asking, I think what I would tell that version of me is to make sure that I am really, really intentional about the friendships that will develop over the next decade. And, their relationships matter. And I had a mentor, the guy who started Lost Valley, Bob Foster, who he met, every Friday we would get together. He was 75 and I was in my early 20s at Lost Valley. We'd have breakfast every Friday morning, and he's mentoring me. And he would always say, your 20s establish your 70s. Your 20s establish your 70s. Your 20s establish your 70s. And what he was basically saying is if you want to be a man of God, if you want to have a legacy, if you want to impact people when you're 75 like he was, start now. Start now when you're 25. And that was such great advice for me. So again, wherever somebody finds themselves, 25, 35, 45, start with the end in mind and start to work on the things now that are going to last and that you will want said about you when you're in that fourth quarter.
It's awesome. Ironically, your first comment, start investing, is actually applicable to that same comment, right? Invest, yes, in Apple stock, but invest in relationships, invest in yourself.
Yes.
Invest in your own mental resilience and fortitude. It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, Brad, I've been such a recipient of that investment you've made in your 20s and how it's coming to fruition these days. And the gift you have for bringing people together, creating intentional spaces it's really impacted my life. And so I'm really grateful that you'd share a few minutes.
When are we going to get Ryan to some of these?
Yeah, we got. I'm hearing bits and pieces.
Yeah, well, hey, the initiation is not underway yet. All in due time. No, he would be a wonderful addition to it. And again, it's awesome what you've done through that community, Brad.
There's now a joining fee that's massive. You got in before the joining fee went up significantly.
So my initiation fee is now what, 4x?
Just like a country club. That's right. So good.
Okay. Well, send the invoice and we'll talk about it.
That's good.
You got it. Yeah.
Brad, so good to see you. We really appreciate the time and thanks for the leadership you're bringing to this world.
Thanks, Brad. Really blessed by the conversation for sure.
Yeah. Loved it, guys. Thanks.
All right, sweet. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks for engaging with this episode of the Masters of Resilience podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend or colleague. Stay up to date on all the latest episodes and get exclusive resources at mastersofresilience.com. We'll see you next time.